All right, let's dive in. We're starting our story in Jackson, Mississippi. And this is a place where history, well, it's not just some dusty old thing in a textbook. No, it's alive, it's breathing, and it's being reawakened on the city streets as we speak.
And right at the heart of it all, it's a single street. A corridor that carries the name of a man who, against all the odds, absolutely refused to be forgotten and demanded that his story be told the right way.
So that's the big question, right? Who was this guy? We're going to get into it because, trust me, to really get what's happening in Jackson today, you first have to understand the absolutely incredible life of this man.
Okay, Section 1, A Legacy on Lynch Street. And you know, our story, it actually starts right now, in the present day, on the very street that honors his legacy.
So, what's happening is that Jackson State University is leading this huge project to revitalize the J.R. Lynch Street corridor. And we're not just talking about paving roads or fixing buildings. No, the goal here is so much bigger. It's about preserving the real history of West Jackson and turning this area into a new cultural and economic hub for the whole community. And get this, the whole thing got a massive jumpstart with a $155,000 grant from the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Think of it like seed money, the first investment in a plan to tell a much, much richer and more accurate story about Jackson's history.
All right, Section 2, From Slavery to Statesman. To really, truly understand why this one street is so important, we've got to hop in our time machine. We have to go back and meet the man himself. And let me tell you, his journey, it's astounding.
Just look at this timeline for a second. It's wild. He was born into slavery in 1847. Then boom, just a few years after emancipation, by 1869, he's appointed a Justice of the Peace and then gets elected to the state legislature. It doesn't stop there. By 1872, he becomes the first black Speaker of the Mississippi House. And then, just 1 year later, he's in the U.S. Congress. I mean, that is a meteoric rise. It's the kind of thing that was almost unheard of, especially during the incredibly turbulent Reconstruction era.
And if that wasn't incredible enough, here's the kicker. He took his seat in the U.S. House of Representatives when he was just 26. 26 years old. Think about that. This was a self-educated man who just a decade earlier had been enslaved, and now he was in the halls of power, helping to write the laws of the entire nation.
Okay, Section 3, the fight for civil rights. So once he got to Washington, Lynch proved he wasn't just there to be a symbol. Not at all. He was a brilliant legislator, a truly powerful speaker, and he put every single one of those skills to work, fighting for the rights of all Americans. Now listen to this quote. It's from this incredibly powerful speech he gave, arguing for the Civil Rights Bill of 1875. In just a few sentences, he completely reframes the entire debate. He just cuts right to the heart of what was really at stake.
The way he built his case was just meticulous. He came at it from 3 different angles. First, he made the legal argument, right? He grounded everything in the Constitution's 14th Amendment. Then, he tackled the social angle, basically dismantling the opposition's biggest scare tactic. And finally, he made it political, calling out both parties and holding them accountable.
And this right here, this is where you can really see the genius of his argument. See, his opponents were screaming that this bill would force social equality. But Lynch, he was so smart about it. He masterfully drew this crystal clear line. He said, look, this has nothing to do with forcing who you're friends with. It's about guaranteeing public rights. You know, the right to ride a train, stay in a hotel, get a fair trial, the basic stuff that should belong to every single citizen.
So, Section 4, Writing the True History. When Reconstruction was dismantled, Lynch saw a whole new battle starting up. This time, it was a fight over the story of Reconstruction itself. So his fight for justice, it had to move. It moved from the floor of Congress right onto the pages of history books.
And to get why he felt he had to pick up a pen, you've got to understand this powerful myth he was up against. It's called the lost cause narrative. And it was basically a deliberate campaign to rewrite history, framing the Reconstruction governments, the ones with leaders like Lynch, as corrupt failures. So this became his mission statement. He said he wanted to present the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I mean, as someone who had lived it, who was actually there, he felt this deep duty to set the record straight. So he wrote his landmark book, The Facts of Reconstruction, to fight back against the myths with cold, hard, first-hand evidence.
And check this out. This is a perfect example of his factual approach.
He just completely blew up their narrative about corruption by pointing straight to the financial records. The Republican government he was part of? A totally clean slate, not a single dollar missing. And then, the so-called Redeemer government that came after? Well, the guy in charge immediately defaulted for over $300,000. The facts spoke for themselves. Okay, Section 5, a torch for today. And that brings us full circle, right back to the present. Because that fight Lynch started, that fight to preserve the truth and build a better future, it's still being carried on. Right now, in his name.
So get this, just last year, a brand new nonprofit was launched, and it was founded by one of Lynch's own relatives. It's called the John R. Lynch Legacy Initiative, and their whole goal is to take his incredible life's work and translate it into actual real-world action for today's generation.
And we're not just talking about ideas on paper here. They are already proposing very real programs. Things like creating teaching kits for schools based on his book, establishing paid summer internships for students in Mississippi, and they're even partnering up with the Robert Johnson Foundation to use music and culture to help revitalize the community. How cool is that?
All right, Section 6, why his story matters. So this brings us to the big question, the crucial point. Why does any of this matter now? I mean, why should the story of a man born more than 175 years ago still hit so hard today?
It's because his life is the argument. Think about it. From being born enslaved to becoming a congressman, then an author, and even a major in the U.S. Army, his journey is living proof that leadership, talent, and patriotism can and do come from every single corner of our society.
And if you take away one thing, let it be this. Honoring John R. Lynch isn't just a passive thing. It's not just about putting his name on a street sign. It's about active maintenance. It's about the hard work of maintaining a truthful version of history, of maintaining civic engagement, and maintaining the very communities where all that history actually took place.
So we end with this question. If history is a story, who gets to be the author? That is the question John R. Lynch spent his entire life answering. He fought tooth and nail for his right to help write America's story. And all the work that's happening today on that one street in Jackson, Mississippi, well, it shows us that the next chapter is still being written right now.